Good evening. Welcome to Defacto Review, our weekly in-depth analysis on the current news and affairs with our commentator, Mr. Narambat.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
And I'm your host, Namsrat Sindh. So as for our topics for today, a new open data website of government institutions, social insurance tax increase and how it will affect private sectors, Northeast Asian countries and gas pipeline. Okay, let's get into our first topic. Last Thursday, the Anti-Corruption Agency introduced their data search engine of the 5 government institutions they have created in cooperation with several non-governmental organizations. Information about government tenders, election process, income statement of government officials, and mining license information are now easier for the people to search and find. A training session on how to use this open data system was also provided by the agency. So our first question about this one is, could you tell us more about this open data system? Is this something new, or has other agencies tried to implement this before?
Oh no, it's definitely a new portal, and I would like to applaud to project initiators for making that information accessible to everyone through that open portal. If we look at the open portal, it consists of 5 main cats. First, it gives you an access to declaration of income of civil servants. Then it gives information on public procurement in the state tenders. It also gives a pretty good knowledge about the company registration and on mining licenses, on the last one, and on election data.
Right.
So that consists of the 5 main categories, so to speak. And it's a really big step for NGOs, for public. And you need to understand that the transparency of the state servants and institutions is only possible through the engagement of high technology. This is what they have done, the project initiators, and I really applaud that news. I would like to mention a statement from a project initiator, Mr. Bat Dorj, and he made an interesting survey a few years back. He said that more than 50 deposits of all deposits among state servants, more than 50% belong to MPs.
Right.
And let's say the deposits of the parliamentarians in the 2018 grew by 39 billion tugriks. And you extrapolate, this means that the revenue of the member of the parliament on a monthly basis grew by 44 million tugriks. So that's quite an interesting statistic. If we look back a bit further, and then you know that the Anti-Corruption Agency was founded in 2007, and since its foundation, the agency was always politicized.
Right.
And in some cases, it was used by some marginal forces and structures. The reason? It's pretty simple. It was lack of the information, and NGOs and public, they had no access to so-called open information, public information. So that's why, and if there is no information or no access to the information, then the information itself becomes distorted.
So does every government institution information is on this site? Is every information?
No, not yet. And I'm sure, this portal has to be very dynamic.
Right.
I think it's just, in my opinion, it's just the very first step. And I would like to propose on a next update, so to speak, on a next update, the 2 more categories. The first one, if you look back, then over the course of the last 2 years, over 400 cases, corruption cases, were opened up at the Anti-Corruption Agency. And most of them were closed. So maybe 6th category could be an information regarding those cases. When case was opened, when closed, successfully or not, for what reason, who was the judge, and that information will be very critical.
Right.
Because then we can control, and then we can see, not control, this is not a right word, we can see
Monitor.
and monitor the progress about the cases. And the seventh category I would like to propose is an expense statement of government officials and higher ranking politicians as well. Because we do have plenty of information on incoming side, but we don't have an information on expenses. And then we can see the balance, whether this gentleman, bench sitter, is living up to par.
Right.
Yep.
So could you tell us about the significance of the system? Like what kind of power does this give to the people?
Oh, it's great power. And I think you and I, we're not trying to control the government. After all, it's impossible. What we're trying to do and create something that we can influence the government over a decision so that our government becomes very practical and transparent. If you look to any state, the state has two main polars. The South Polar is the government with its legislative systems, requirements, and procedures. And the North Pole is a private companies. This is how the states operates. If it's a single polar state, then it will collapse, right? So as much as the polars we do have, then it gives a more opportunity for the state to exist. So we're not trying to control, but rather we are trying to influence the government through the access to that public information.
I see. So did the anti-government agency initiate this, or is it part of the government project?
I think it was a joint collaboration between NGOs and the anti-corruption agency.
Right. So what is the government actually, other than this, what is the government doing to, ensure people's right to access information?
Well, I think, the salvation of drowning people is a work of the drowning people themselves. This is a very good proverb in Russian. So government will, well, at least, I can't say it about other governments, but the Mongolian government, if we look back into the history, always trying to seize the access to the information. This is how it operated. But, we see a growing trend among the governments worldwide where they're giving an access to all kind of information. Because if the government and if an ordinary citizen, they do have a same amount of the information, then we set expectations right from the beginning.
Right.
So then we can jointly together develop a solution, develop a strategy. And to keep that right to the access to the public information, first of all, it's our duty. It's a duty of an ordinary citizens. It's a duty of an NGOs. It is not a duty of the government. The duty of the government is to provide an access, to grant the access to the information. But to obtain the access and to keep the access as much as possible and open, as transparent, as accessible as possible, it's our duty.
Okay, so let's get into our second topic. The social insurance tax is going to increase next year. People and private sectors expressed their opposition to this via social media platforms for the last few months. And starting from the 1st of January this year, the social insurance tax was increased by 1%, reaching a total of 24%. And starting from next year, in 2020, it will be increased by 1% once again. So our first question about this one is that what is the main problem of social insurance system?
This is a very complex question, to be honest, and I'm not sure whether we in 10 minutes should be able to answer all of them. But, we try to be very precise and short. First of all, we need to understand there are no, the perfect insurance system does not exist at all. This is must. And, if you look at this social insurance and social care, it depends on too many dynamic factors. So A, and B, it's a collaboration of the state, employers, and the citizens themselves.
Right.
So it's a joint. It's not something that the government should be responsible 100% for the social insurance and the care. It's a totally wrong approach. So, but if you look back into the history, that existing social insurance system was adopted back probably 15 to 20 years. Since then, In those times, the social insurance and care was, this is what was needed, right? It was relevant, and this is what is needed in that context back 15 years ago. But now the situation has changed. We need to all understand that. And unfortunately, we're witnessing some layer of the society who live, entirely up on our social insurance and care. This is already happening.
Right.
So we need to change that. And how do we change that? There are two camps, two opinions. The first opinion, they say, that depends. The government itself should be 100% responsible for social care and insurance. That's one opinion. The second opinion, they say, no, it has to be a hybrid system. It should be an ecosystem that consists of the collaboration between the government, employers, and the citizens. So that's, I would probably belong myself to a second camp.
Right.
Because I don't believe that government should be responsible 100% for something.
Right.
Not at all. This is a completely wrong approach.
So is Mongolia's social insurance tax percentages high compared to other countries? And how does the high tax of social insurance affect the social society itself?
Good question. Well, in the region, Mongolia is the country with the highest fee. Right. If we look at Japan and South Korea, they account probably for 9 and 16.8% respectively. But those are the countries, with a mature economy. So if you look at this structure, experts, they say we need to introduce, well, the good thing is everyone agrees we need a reform. Right. That's a good thing. But how, and then this is, the opinions are different. In my opinion, it should be introduced as soon as possible, because Mongolia is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. The people has changed over the course of the last 15 to 20 years. Our mentality is different. Our culture is different. Yeah.
So why did they decide to increase the tax once more? Because
it's very simple reason. There are 5 funds in a social care system. Right. And only out of the 5, only pension fund has operated with a loss. And they say in 2018 it was 500 billion tugriks. The loss of the pension fund was 500 billion tugriks. So they're just simply raising the taxes in order to cover the social pension fund loss. But it's a very short-term decision. Unless we drastically reform and change it, for the next loss, guess what's going to happen? They're going to increase again? Because we're already paying already too much of taxes. You and I probably, if you have a salary of the 1 million tugriks, 200 and, so I just...
Over 24 million.
Yes. So probably 1/3 we're already, paying to the government in one way or another, right, in a form of the tax and the profit tax. Right? So it's already too high. So unless we introduce a multi-layer system, and by multi-layer system I mean that if you look at the Netherlands, in their benchmark, they have a multi-layer social insurance or social care system. So they have a social care of 2%, because this is what they have. And then they have a mandatory pension, which is a 10 to 13%. And on top of that, they offer a private pension funds. This is up to an employee, right, how do they work. And the solution, in my opinion, is that, we have a basic system, and then on top of the basic system, there is a multi-level social insurance system. So basic system is covered by the government, and the multi-level is being offered by the employers themselves.
Right. So how will this, increase in social insurance tax affect private sectors and employers overall?
Well, it's all about numbers. So if you have a salary of the 1 million tugriks, then 125 you will pay as an employee, and then on top of that you will pay an income tax, and in tops 347,000 tugriks. Right? So, but if you look at the increase in 2008 or 9, if I recall correctly, the social insurance fee was dropped up to 14%, where 7% is paid by the employee and 7% paid by the employer.
Right.
And that was gradually increased, and now it's almost the same level as the employer and employee, because I'm paying I will pay beginning from the 1st of January at 12.5%, and your employee will pay 13.5%. It's nearly the same.
Right.
Right? To me, an increase in a salary, it's a burden on my OPEX, right? Operating expenses. So I will try to keep your salary as low as possible.
Right.
So instead, that's why I'm stressing on creating a multi-layer social system. Is that for instance, if we look at the Has Bank or the Golant Bank, they already started offering alternative pension funds to their employees. And it proven to be successful because they said it's successful. First, it increases the productivity of an employee.
Right.
It increases the overall performance of the employee. There are so many aspects from the HR point of view. So they say it's working successfully. All we need is a corrective legislative system from the government.
Okay, so let's get into our third topic. The Northeast Asian Gas and Pipeline Forum was hosted in Lamanta this week, and representatives from countries such as Japan, South Korea, China, and Russia have participated in the forum. From Mongolia, representatives from energy sector mainly participated in this forum, and President of the Mongolia have met with the foreign representatives to talk about this issue. So our first question about this one is that what was the main objective of the forum? Did you participate in this forum?
No, unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to participate because I was on a trip. But I read all the papers, and in the light of many forums nowadays,
Right.
one day, a new forum, I'm cautiously optimistic, saying this is quite promising. And first of all, the good news is that the news of the transit pipeline through Mongolia itself is a good news. The second good news is that Mongolia is now officially part of the so-called executive committee, and that executive committee consists of representatives from Russia, China, South Korea, Japan.
Right.
So it's really welcome news. The pipeline is quite simple. I think they did a preliminary studies, and they said okay, it's the shortest route to the Southeast Asian countries. And considering the geolocation, the country risks, I think it's time for Mongolia to stand up to a next level and now start doing the transit of the gas pipelines to the Southeast Asia. This is what it's a good news itself. Yeah,
right.
That's the objective. That organization, it's an NGO, and the good thing is that they consist of representatives from the business community, from government, and from scientists. So it's not purely entirely a government-driven organization.
Right.
It consists of the good, amount of the representatives. So that's why I'm saying I'm cautiously optimistic. It might happen. So during a forum they discussed and they presented some studies, strategy on how to make this happen. They also discussed the next forum will take place next year in island of Sakhalin in Russia.
Right.
But the most important thing, they agreed that they requested indeed an active participation of Mongolia in the forum, A, and B, they said they proposing Mongolia to develop the proposal, the technical and economical financial proposal.
Right.
They said we are ready to provide with the numbers, with the studies, but it should come from Mongolia, and this paper should incorporate Mongolian interests. Otherwise, if one country will do the proposal on behalf of us, then every country, they have their own agenda, and then that probably creates a bit of conflicts. That's why they stressing out Mongolia, do the proposal yourself, and we are ready to provide any numbers and service as it requires.
So what was the other results of this? Because it seems like it was a really fruitful forum.
Yeah, it was a fruitful forum. They met with the president of Mongolia. The Minister of Energy. They said, we will be an active part of this forum because it will go through Mongolia. So we have to be very proactive. This what has been officially said by the Minister of Energy, Mr. Defacto. So that's the main thing. And how Mongolia would benefit, right?
Right.
And so probably you will ask.
I was going to ask that. Right.
So it's very simple. Just stand alone. Imagine, the pipeline is already there, and it's a surplus. It's an incremental revenue to the state budget. So every year we can safely say around 2 to 3 billion US dollars will just come into a Mongolian economy.
Right.
On the other side, what it will create? It will create entirely a new industry, a gas industry in Mongolia. So let's say, we have a problem with an air pollution. There are sound and technical solutions how to battle with air pollution through gasification of the yurt districts. So I've seen the proposal, it's very sound. Also, cars, buses operating on LNG, that's another business. So Mongolia right now, they're saying, we need to modernize our power plant number 3, number 2, number 5. Why not considering building up a power plant that operates on a gas? But the major benefit, as I said, it will create an entirely new gas industry in Mongolia because there is a company called Erdesmitan.
Right.
So they're already doing a geo exploration works to find a gas in Mongolia. Eventually they will find out. So let's imagine we have a pipeline and then we have a Mongolian gas. And why not using that pipeline and infrastructure to deliver and sell, import Mongolian gas to the neighboring countries?
Right.
So the economical benefits are huge.
So you just mentioned that the Minister of Energy sector, why you said that we need to be proactive, right?
Yep.
But who will be in charge of this? Because because of the upcoming elections, will there be anyone who's willing to do this in a long-term project?
I don't want to tie this on to an upcoming election because it's a very long process.
Yes.
I don't think so that within the 6 to 12 months it will happen, realistically speaking. So it will probably happen in the next term. That's answering to your latter part of your question. And answering to your first part, they already have appointed Mr. Taiwan, head of the policy planning department, to lead out the Mongolian side. So they already appointed people there. They're true professionals. Yeah.
Right. So there are any private sectors participating in this?
Not at this moment. Not at this moment. And probably Erdesmitan will be more than happy, interested to join that forum as well. So that's my guess.
So what do you think when this will be a really mega project, right?
Yeah, it is a mega project.
Suppose we will, this will go through Mongolia. When do you think this will happen?
Well, hopefully, this happens. I really don't know, but hopefully, this happens within the next the government term.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, would you do you have anything to add on this?
No. A part of this is a quite welcome news. I just wish this happens. Right. Everything comes true. Yeah.
Right. So, in case of the elections come and
elections come and go.
Yes, but still, we need something that, we need a committee maybe to operate on this on a long-term project because of the elections. We've been, so many projects have been stopped on, because of the terms. So.
I don't want that election interfere, with the overall progress of the gas pipeline. That's why we need a strong body. We need a strong leader who can lead out this.
Right.
And this time again for Mongolians, it's a perfect time to show to the rest of the world how we can unite over a mega project.
Okay, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Fortunately, that is all the time we had for today. Thank you for staying with us. We will see you next week with more topics. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.